Still wincing from the discarded goggles, Nicholas closed his eyes. What next? He was feeling for the flashlight when he noticed the sleigh already stood in a pool of light. It lit up a big highway sign which read, Cabbagehead Pass, 1 mile. What is a highway sign doing in a schoolyard? He mused. Puzzlement grew into concern as he stepped from the sleigh. They were surrounded by the dark outline of immense rocky mountains. This is no schoolyard, he sneezed, blinking back the tears that came with it. How'd we get here? What on earth? Nicholas's anger grew like a wildfire, and he began looking for a victim to blame. He quickly found one. That deer? Where has she gotten us? He started to march forward to the lead harness. Comet and Cupid were both slumped in the snow, trying to regain strength. The others were quiet, bowed down from exhaustion. Gracie, however, stood at the lead, still fresh and excited. She turned to greet him. Look what you've done, he exploded. We're at least 100 miles from where we ought to be. Even the mountain wind couldn't cover his angry outburst. What good is a lead deer that can't obey a simple command? He shouted, pointing an accusing finger at her. The little deer's eyes grew wide with surprise, then fear, and her head dropped to avoid eye contact with the big shadow hovering over her. Many sharp words and a long, cold stare followed. Finally, Nicholas turned and walked back to the sleigh, grumbling loudly as he went. So, is everyone happy? He asked sarcastically. Anyone for warm milk and cookies now? He paused as if waiting for an answer. I didn't think so. Confusion and strain washed over the team. The saddest of all was Gracie. She was devastated. Snow fell heavier now, swirling and twisting around them like torn ribbons in the wind. Nicholas reached into the sleigh, forcefully yanking the emergency pack out onto the ground. Tearing at the pack, he stood and yelled, Gracie, this is not a schoolyard. This is a highway in the mountains. He grabbed at a blanket and muttered, We're lucky it was flat enough to land. In the distance behind him, the unnoticed headlights of a big truck were rounding the curve toward them all. What part of turn east? Go 20 miles, land, flat spot with light, don't you understand? He picked up several blankets. But what do? You turn east and go. Nicholas stopped and repeated to himself. You turn east. Realization poured down on the old man's rage like a desert cloudburst. I told Gracie to turn east. I meant west. He dropped the blankets. Oh, Gracie! The rest of his words were lost in a rush of wind and the blaring horn of the 18-wheeler struggling to avoid them. The truck sideswiped the sleigh and narrowly missed Nicholas, who was blown over by a wall of snow and thrown into a drift. The sleigh skidded and would have flipped over if it hadn't struck the road sign. The light illuminating the sign made a sizzling sound, then flickered out. In a few moments, all was silent. Nicholas woke up, freezing to the bone, and sprawled back in his snowbank. How long have I been out? He wondered. For the first time in his life, he felt the fear of cold and dark. The team! Brushing snow off his face, Nicholas struggled to his feet. Some distance away, he could see the dark truck stopped, with its engine running and red brake lights just visible through the blowing snow. After a moment, the lights dimmed as the big rig continued its pull up to Cabbagehead Pass. Nicholas located the flashlight and hurried over to check the condition of the team. They were roughed up and panicky, but it seemed none were badly hurt. Shocked murmurings darted back and forth from deer to deer.
What was that? I didn't see it. My right shoulder sure hurts. Anyone see my cud?
Nicholas surveyed the scene and counted. Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen had been completely pulled off the road by the sled. Dasher, Prancer, Vixen, and Gracie had ended up... Wait a minute. No, Gracie. Where's Gracie? The beam of his flashlight searched dimly across the tumble of deer, gravel, sleigh, and snow.
Gracie!
He called out.
Over here.
Dasher called back with a low, coarse moan. The faithful deer was nosing at something on the ground beside him as Nicholas approached. There, lying in the snow, was the newest team member. She had been thrown from her oversized harness. She was quiet, trembling, barely.
Oh, Gracie!
Nicholas cried, heartbroken. He began to weep angrily. He looked up at the snow-filled sky.
Is this some kind of test? What do we do now?
His yelling exploded into a roar.
Christmas is over! Gracie's gone!
He dropped into the snowdrift where he had been standing.
I don't suppose we could get some help down here,
he whispered bitterly. Somewhere, a voice called out of the darkness of the nearby forest.
Need some help?